We are all a little depraved and debaucherous. Here is the king of podcasts.
Thanks for joining me on the program. Another D&D episode for all of you. kingofpodcasts.com is the website. So tonight on the program, I'm going to go into my own personal account again, because I notice that some of you do like when I kind of go into my own personal adventures and what has gone on with me when it comes to being depraved and debaucherous. Well, before all that, like I've talked about some shows where when we talked about cuffing season, and I mentioned a girl that I met that was in rehab, and you know what her intentions were when she got together with me early on in cuffing season, around October into November, and by after the new year, it was all done because I know where her intentions were. Like, it was really to use me just to get herself out of rehab. So the idea of like, oh, so let's move in together, let's have kids, let's have a family. She just wanted any way to get out of the environment she was in. And just like the idea of having a family, I mean, I guess that wasn't a good intention, but like the truth was we weren't even that intimate or close. Not even at that point. But before all that, I could take myself back another 15, 20 years. Like, seriously, I can go back years when it comes to one guy I was hung out with that were like, I had a couple of friends of mine, a couple of brothers. There was two guys who were brothers, one younger and one older. And I hung out with the younger brother quite a bit. The older brother I did too, but like, depending on that they worked or whatever. And then I'm in my early to mid 20s hanging out with these guys. The younger brother, had a tendency of always having a girlfriend off and on. And it was always like that with him. He was a serial dater, which is why I'm talking about that on tonight's show. And with him, okay, let me try to describe. So he would have been a couple of years younger than me. So at this point, he would have been 19, 20, to about 25, 26, maybe a little bit older than that. Almost about 10 years. And during this time, I really didn't go out with any girls. I would always kind of do the bros before hoes thing. Because I thought that's what you're going to do. Like, I didn't want to make myself where I was trying so hard to go and get to a girl. And I was like, well, I need to do something else just to not act like I need to be with somebody. Like, let me just, hang out with friends, do my thing, fish in the sea. Some girl's going to find me someday. That whole thought process. But one of the things is that I think this younger brother guy, this friend of mine, the thing was with him is that I know that he didn't rub off well on me because I look at what he went through and I'm like, I was frustrated because every girl that I met that he was with, they were all attractive in some way. But he also had a thing where he liked to pick girls that were younger than him. So, when he got into, first I met him when he was probably like, 16, 17? And I was 19? And we get to my middle 20s, he's getting up to 21, and he's still dating girls that are in high school. I mean, not thinking much of it because he looked younger. That was on top of that. He just had a certain look, a certain way of where he carried himself. And the thing with him was that he always had a way of kind of like romancing a girl and getting together. But the problem was that he didn't care. And part of the thing was I was trying to figure out, he'd only be with a girl for like so much time. But what happened with him was it would be self-destructive. There's another friend that my friend knows, from the same pair of brothers. Like, there was a friend I knew from the older brother that was the same way. They had this thing about always getting together with a girl. They're attractive. The girl's attractive. And if they wanted to hold on to the girl, they were able to go and attract girls that were more than most submissive and sweet, and just, they might be a little off because they were probably kind of bitter and broken from other relationships. But these are girls in their teens and 20s. And I'm like, the way they both reacted to the girls they were with, the one thing that my friend would do is that he would go ahead and, like, they would hang out and they would spend nights together. And then he would just kind of he would not be around so much. He would just distance himself. And the amount of time they talked on the phone or did stuff, he would just put some space in between and continue to do that and basically just fade it out. And unfortunately, I'm the one that had the phone plan, right? Because at that time, we were talking about the mid 90s, the late 90s, and, you know, phone plans were still kind of hard to come by. And it was better to go and call after 9 o'clock at night because I got minutes, right? And then I'd have some girls that might have my number to reach out and reach him, which was stupid, but that's what happened. Because I ended up being friends with some of these people and, like, you know, somehow my number would come across. Or because he would always be the guy that, like, you know, he would have a job, not have a job, have money. He would not have money. He'd borrow off of me. He was a moocher. And then when we went along, I was like, okay, I wasn't going after certain girls because, you know, number one, I was awkward about it. And I'm saying to myself, well, what if I got together with, you know, maybe I could meet girls with my friend. Maybe he'll play like wingman for me. But instead, I was the one wingman for him. Because I introduced girls to him. The girls that would put me in the friend zone. And if I couldn't get them in the friend zone, and guys, I'm sure some of you understand this, that you might have gotten together with a girl you really wanted. She didn't want you. She friend zoned you and would do everything to make you feel like you should stay in the friend zone. And that's the other problem we always have, which maybe an episode needs to talk about that. But what happened was that I would go ahead and set a friend of mine up with a girl. And it was always one thing or another. It's like, when you think about it, he didn't really care. He enjoyed just that initial honeymoon period, and that was it. And he would just not really care after that. And he would just be neglectful and stubborn and just, he would ghost. And that's the thing that happens a lot today, but it's like, there's no excuse for it. Like, she could say, oh, you know, my phone got turned off. I don't have any minutes right now. That was always her excuse. Or, you know, because we were at the end of beepers and into phones already. And, you know, it's like if somebody had a phone, if somebody would just find a way to go and reach out to somebody, like we would still use pay phones in those days, right? But, you know, if he didn't have the money, it wouldn't matter. The girl would spend. Like, that was the other thing too. This guy could go and just leech off a girl, borrow money from her, or just get money from her, or get stuff, or she'd buy him stuff. And it was like that. And it wasn't like this guy was like overly strong or muscular. He was just like, you know, Spanish. He was very skinny, lean, like wearing the jumpsuits. So, like, you know, tracksuits. That was his thing. It wasn't like he was like a mafioso or Italian. It was just like, that's something he liked. He would still wear like whatever like clothes he had, but like his signature was wearing the tracksuit, something Adidas. And sometimes he had friends that he would, you know, borrow clothes from because he would stay the night at somebody's place. And then he just like take the shirt and like not bring it back. And there were plenty of times he would borrow from somebody and then like he would have some new clothing, whatever. And it's like it was from somebody else. He just borrowed it and never gave it back. That's just what he was. Yes, what he did. And I probably would have been fine about it if it was just the girls he was doing things to. But I was playing wingman. I was a friend with him, right? We hung out and done stuff. And don't get me wrong, we had fun together. We did some fun stuff. We had some laughs, right? But bottom line is that I always got the short end of the stick when it came to like hanging out. I'd like to go and do some other stuff, and we would be hanging out at somebody's house where like everybody in the group was like pretty much deadbeats except for like this one girl that he's talking to. And, you know, it was like he didn't mind still being in that high school set. So like I'm older than everybody else by a couple of years. And there were times like he would be with these high school girls and guys, right? Hanging out. And I'm like, no, I feel out of place, but I'm hanging out with him. And because I was his ride. And I'm saying to myself, well, what do I do here? I, at the moment, didn't have anything else better to do. My thing was, I was kind of stuck because I was like, well, there's no girls for me to go out with. The ones I'm interested in are friend zoning me. So like, they don't spend time with me on the phone. They don't spend time with me meeting up in person because they know I'm wanting to approach for something more and hoping something more will come of it, but it didn't. So like I got that going for me, that which sucks. And then, I'm thinking about, I would set other friends up and do the same shit. But a lot of my friends, they were serial daters. They'd have some of the girl they would be with and they wouldn't care. Now, the other friend, okay, from the older brother of the two friends of mine. Hope you're keeping up with this. Well, this guy would do the same thing. Like, good looking guy. He might have had some things that happened to him, that where he has a certain way about himself. Very funny. Like, really, like, quick wit, sharp humor, charming, especially with the girls. And then he would love bomb a girl. He would make a girl feel like $1,000,000. But then he would self-destruct. And what he did was he did the whole push-pull. Like, if your girl abandoned him, then he would be begging to get her back. And he kept emotionally a tug of war with these girls. And there were just sometimes like these girls, he would basically bring them down to like a mental breakdown on how much he pushed and pulled and made it so difficult for these girls to be with him. And I thought it was just like some kind of mental thing, but I mean, because he was screwing it up for himself. But when I think about it now, he meant to do that. It was on purpose. So guys, you might know some friends of yours that do the same thing. And it's not good. Like, it doesn't help. Like, I mean, it's harder than now for guys to go and hang out and do anything because, in the teens and 20s, you had your friends you hang out with, but you also didn't want to make yourself isolated with just a girl, and then you isolate the guys you're with because that's a pretty big step. And I agree. But what happened here was like, I think about the fact that there were all these girls he hung out with, and they all kind of had a certain archetype with them. And I think of the girls he was with, like, it really, they were quality girls. When I think about it, first of all, it frustrated me because all the girls that the one guy I was hanging out with, the younger brother, they were all pretty. They were all very attractive. And like, somehow they got attached to him. And I should have known that, yeah, these girls are going to get hurt at the end of it. I didn't know any better. I just saw what was going on. I'm like, why is he doing that? First, there's a beautiful blonde he's with, and I'm like, look at her. She's dressed to the nines. She looks great. And he's dressed in the same tracksuit. And then, like, here's another girl, attractive, same thing. Had a way of picking the women. And I don't know how much he really was sexual with them, but I mean, pretty sure he probably fucked them all. But then after that, it's like, it was fresh. These girls didn't know much about relationships. They were not that emotionally intelligent yet because they really hadn't gone out with many guys. But this guy just had a tendency, okay, 3 months into it, 4 months, and he's out. He gets what he wants. The good part, without it turning bad because he's not a good guy about it. He wants to get out. And so he would do that. He didn't cheat or anything like that. He would just, move along to the next girl and find someone else to go after. Meet him, go on, do the whole Don DeJuan thing, and then just move along. And the thing was, he was going through his own kind of things when it came to like medical stuff. I'm not going to get into too many details, but like, the thing was with him is that he kept the same look. He kept the same style. He didn't change himself. And part of it was kind of a thing where if he wanted to go out to the clubs, I like to go out to the clubs and I wanted him to come along with us. But he was never dressed to go to the clubs. And then we couldn't get him in a collar shirt because he didn't want to wear it. So we couldn't go to the clubs. Number one, because at one point it was because he was too young. He couldn't get in. And then second, it was always the dress code. Because he wanted to change the dress code. He wanted to go and get dress some way else. He wants to be the way he is. So we had to do the same kind of high school shit. Because that's how it was. And I didn't want to go by myself. And that was my problem. I didn't try to go on my own to go and figure it out. I felt like I needed to still have friends to kind of rely on, just like lean back because I didn't know any better. Because I was so awkward coming out of high school, so awkward coming out of college, just to talk to a girl. I might have my career stuff kind of figured out a little bit. I was in my career field, but other than that, I was so awkward around girls. I was still a virgin, and I really hadn't done much with any girls at that point. And so I'm just basically living around the girlfriends that these guys got. And there were several guys that I would see, okay, they would have their girlfriends, and some of them would be like long-term girlfriends, whatever, like, okay, some are better than others. I also knew that, like, I was friends with the guys, but the girls never really were anything interesting to me. They didn't care about me. I was like just a friend, but not their friend. I was just like, what are you doing here? That's the kind of feeling I got. So I always felt like persona non grata. I never felt welcome in most of these places. They just knew, oh, well, this guy's, this is guy's ride. And that was it. But he wouldn't change his look. He wouldn't change anything about himself. He just stuck to the same script. And this is 5-6 years later. And sometimes he would go out to somebody that was like much younger. And I'm like, we're all telling him, dude, you can't do it, man. Even me, I almost got caught. There was a girl I still ran into the other day. That was a girl I met online. And first of all, she was working in the movie theater. But I met her on a website. I think it was Yahoo Personals, I think it was. And she was 18, or I thought she was, but no, she was actually lying because she was actually underage. I was 19, I think, at the time, 19, 20. But the girl I was originally talking to, she was shy and awkward. Wouldn't go out with me. But then it's like something about when I talked to her. Remember, she was talking to her, she had a best friend. And this girl, the girl I was talking to was brunette, a little chubby. But I mean, she was very shy and very timid. But she was sweet. She was nice. I would have liked her. And then I met the other friend, blonde, a little bit skinnier, taller, a little more outgoing, a little more extroverted. And I remember going out with her for a day. And, she was dressed cute. She was wearing like a red crop top. She had jeans on, long blonde hair. I know that she dyed it because she had dark roots, but that was her thing. And she was nice. Like, I was like, wow, this girl's great. It's like, I'm happy with her. Like, I'll take anybody, but like, she was pretty. She was nice. She gave me a little bit of attention. And then that same day I started introducing her to her friends because I went and stopped by a friend's house and like, all of that. And I introduced her to some friends of mine, like the older brother of the guys I'm talking about was staying with another friend of mine because long story short, at that point, no, I would have been more in my mid 20s because this friend of mine, he moved to where another friend of mine that I knew from a circle of friends, and he was renting a room out of this guy's house. With his baby mama, because he met a girl when he was moving away, and then he came back down with her, and she was pregnant with their daughter, eventually their daughter. So I introduced her, and there was another guy we knew from the whole setup. And what ended up happening was this same girl I never went out with. Like, I went out and talked to her a couple times, and we met up a few times, but she never gave me like any interest showing me like the validation. Okay, I'm going out with you. I'm picking you up. We're going out and doing stuff. We're going to do this and that. Do you like me? I mean, are you with me because you love me? Do you want to be with me? And I'm asking the question premature. I'm asking it, a couple of dates in? She can't give me an answer. But at that point, I'm like, I just want some girl to love me. I want some girl to be my girlfriend. I never had a girlfriend. And I'm at this point, I'm like, I want you to be a girlfriend. I'd love that for you because you're beautiful, this and that. I want it. It wasn't her. What ended up happening was because she met the same friends, she became friends with my friends. And then she fucked a couple of friends of mine. It's just how it worked. Now, one of them was like, was shortly after I met her and after I introduced her to the friends. And then one guy was like, yeah, they got hooked up. After everything broke off where I didn't, she kind of just like snubbed me, whatever. I didn't make a big deal about it. But yeah, she moved along with somebody else. They fucked around. And then a few years later, the older brother of the best friends of these guys, right? They hooked up. He hooked up with her. A couple of years later, she had gone through a lot of stuff. She had a kid. She went through a bad relationship. She was still on the outs with the baby's father, by the way. But that's another story. I won't bring it up, but I'm just making the point. But I was another girl that I brought in, and I'm like, it was during those times I did try to get myself out with somebody else, but I was like, okay, if I did get a girl, I wanted to incorporate them with my friends. I was trying to like do something like, okay, look, I'm here with a girlfriend. I'm like, I get a girlfriend. I get to hang out with my friends. I thought that was like how it works, but it wasn't. And then my friends, they have their girlfriends, and I'm trying to be I want my girlfriends, the girls that I'm going out with, I want them to be friends with my friends. Like that's me being nice. But my friends aren't doing that. I mean, they introduced me, but the girls were like, fuck you. Like, the guy was basically like the look I had. I mean, God forbid I talk to them at all or say anything nice to them. They would just give me a look. And then any of the girlfriends would also give me a look too, because like, I was a bigger guy. I was a fat kid, right? And that was it. I was like, I'd go on hanging out because it was just like the friends that I had. Because I also was like looking for friends when I moved from my hometown, about an hour away. I didn't want to be bullied. I don't want to be around friends that were going to criticize me. So I picked friends that were, that, they got along with me or whatever. And like, but they were going to be, I was going to actually be a cool member of the clique, like the whole entourage. There would be things about me that I could actually fit in and I would be like not criticized and be put down. I want to be one of those guys. Think about the Saved by the Bell scenario. There's Zach and Slater, and I didn't want to be Screech. Like, that was what I was trying not to do. And so I'm in this scenario, and the friends of mine were always like, they just fucked around with girls and just like let them go. And I don't want to do the same thing. But because I saw that, it frustrated me more. I was like, I'm not going to go after those girls. Like, I wouldn't do that. Bro code, right? I wouldn't take another girl's hoe. I wouldn't take another guy's girl and hook up with them after. I never did that. But even all the way to the end, and there was a girl that this younger brother was going out with, and I'm like, she was the best of all. She was in college, great family, great background. Like, she was just like brunette, girl next door, amazing. What a sweetheart. And so nice to everybody. That was the other thing. She was so nice to everyone. Like, everybody in her crew. She was so welcoming and so accommodating and so everything. And then my friend did the same shit to her. I'm like, motherfucker, dude, this girl is the best you've ever gotten. Like, I mean, everything about her screams like, you hold on to a girl like this. She's such a quality girl, so nice, so wonderful. Like, she was so easy to be around. She didn't ask for she just wanted somebody to honestly love her. And damn, man, he fucked it up for everybody. Because it was like, when you get to a girl like that, I'm like, okay, yeah, of course, some girls, they're not going to pan out. And most likely. But even when he had something good, and he'll regret afterwards. He even said he regretted losing her. But it didn't matter because he was just the way he was. He was a serial dater. And I'm saying to myself, well, I wasn't going to do any better. But like, I also enabled him. I set him up with girls that would also do the same thing. And the problem was too, is that all the friends I knew around me, they almost all did that. I'm like, what am I doing here? The older brother, he didn't really do it because he was kind of like me. But his thing was, he did get friend zone. And he would self-destruct the relationship when he realized the girl never could express her feelings about him. So he had to like get out. And he would put a lot of effort. Now, maybe it's not so much where it was like coming from him, but it was like what he would do for a girl. Which I understand that part because that's for me too. It was that part of being the nice guy. What I do for you, how I treat you, what we do together, how I, how I think of you, how I love you, you know. Like any dumb guy, I was thinking that because of all the good deeds I did, because of how well I treated her, that maybe she likes me. Like I was doing all the right things. I was doing all the right things on the dates, doing all the right things, talking to her, respecting her time. But I came off as fake. And when I didn't get the attention of a girl that I hoped I would get, I bailed. I would do something just to fuck it up. And then I would do that stupid thing where I would go back after a while, hoping that everything kind of calmed down, everything kind of subsided, and I would try to talk to the girl again. But you know what I was doing? The exact same fucking thing these guys were doing. It was the same shit. So part of it was some of the narcissistic, manipulative things that I learned came from them. I was like, well, I should be doing what these guys are doing. My friend's doing this, and they get all these girls. Maybe I should be doing this. And then I started doing it. And, I never really thought about the fact that I knew there was a reason that I did it. I knew what was going on with me. But the other thing that was a contributing factor is the fact that the friends of mine that were serial daters had just kind of like moved from girl to girl without any real consideration of the girl's feelings. These are girls, remember, this is the 90s. It's a different time. It was like we were still meeting in person. And you go out and, we didn't have social media at all. Such a different time. You'd want to go and spend time with each other physically in person. Go to the mall because the mall is a real big important thing. Go to the movies because people really like to go to the movies. And there was a lot of stuff to do. But man, I realized I was doing the same damn thing because all their shit rubbed off on me. And part of it was I was getting tired of the friend zone thing. So like, okay, move along to the next one. But I would be doing some of the same kind of tendencies that those guys did. And it sucks it was that way. But I did it. And all it did was just hinder my progress in being, the kind of guy that a woman would want. And now, next week, I'm going to hit my birthday. And I'm saying to myself, I'm right now, if things were different, if I knew what I knew now, and I could take myself back to the 90s with all this knowledge, I would have never mistreated the girls. I would have never gone on and, hurt these girls. I would have found a way to do it and just find the right girl and hold on to her and love her. And maybe find the one that would be with me, that I would be in a relationship with, and we'd be having a great time together. Like all that could happen. And I'm saying to myself, wow, that would have been wonderful to get there. But it didn't. And so I didn't allow myself the chance to have any relationships because I was so afraid of crashing and burning. Like my thing was, I was always afraid of fucking up. When the truth was, I should have learned the lesson years ago. It was one of two things. Number one, if a girl would have held on to me after all the crashing and burning, all the mistakes I could have made, if I would have gotten the chance to stay around long enough, I know that if she didn't keep up the love and attention for me, I was going to fuck it up. And it won't be just a self-destruct. It will be me pushing and pulling like some of the other guys did. The archetype of guys I hung out with, yeah, they were serial daters. No healthy relationships. But it's because they were their own thing. Who knows? But instead, I hope you guys don't do what I did. You young guys and girls, notice this too. There are just some guys that are serial daters. That's just the way they are. It's the way they operate. And then if you want to try to make sense of it, especially you teenage girls, and you're trying to make sense of why, sometimes there's just no reason why. you're trying to go and play along with logic when normally it's your emotions that are going to be most affected by you. But you know what? You're not going to get the explanation. You're not going to get the answer that you want. Just realize sometimes you just find a guy that's a serial dater. And sometimes they just move along to the next girl. And me being a friend of these serial dater types messed me up. Because I never got into any proper relationships at all because I never took the time. I self-destructed. And I would do some of the same things they did just to kind of like jerk the girl around. When I didn't know what I wanted and I didn't know what to do with them if I had them in the first place. And I held on to them. And they gave me the chance to be with them. Like, that's the other part. It's got to be tough to think about how you do that. But let me tell you. Instead, what happened to me? I didn't get to go ahead and do any of the proper dating. I did what these serial daters did. I was depraved and debaucherous.